The reason that we're here actually started around 2007 when Madiba asked the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. As you know, they deal with child-related issues throughout the country, but he actually just had a very simple question for them when he was like, what is happening with children's healthcare in the country and what can we do to improve it? From there, the Children's Fund started doing research and pre-feasibility studies to look at the state of children's healthcare. And what came out of it were actually very scary statistics about how little there is that is offered for children when it comes to their healthcare, especially children who have the more complicated illnesses, what we call tertiary healthcare. With only 4 children's hospitals on the continent and 500 million children, it's not enough. You're looking at the fact that right now in a lot of the continent, children don't have their own dedicated spaces for healing. They have a ward in an adult hospital. They have a few beds in an ICU that otherwise is only serving adults. And that's not right because children have different needs when it comes to healing. So with that, it was decided, yes, we're gonna build the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, but where? And we knew that being that we are focusing on the SADC region, South Africa and all our neighboring countries, we had to find the most central place for this hospital. And that was where we are right now, which is Parktown in Johannesburg. It's a space where you have a lot of hospitals around us. And because we're gonna work on a referral basis, it's important to be close to other hospitals.
Our role as a commissioning team is to prepare the hospital for the first patient. In other words, commissioning is really taking over the building from the builders and then making it a hospital. In South Africa, this will be our second pediatric hospital. Secondly, it's an academic hospital. And academic means that the hospital also has to provide research and training of health professionals. And therefore, our policies have to be appropriate for a children's hospital, but also for an academic hospital, as both roles have to be provided at the hospital.
After we did our pre-feasibility studies in 2009, when the trust was established, we also knew that we knew the quality hospital that we wanted to build. It had to be a hospital good enough, that excelled on international standards, not just good enough for African children, not just barely good enough for what we can do. We had to make sure that we are dealing with global standards.
So in this hospital, we have high-tech equipment. In terms of our radiology, our imaging department, we have up to a 3 Tesla MRI scan. We've got a 64-slice CT scan. We've got all the digital imaging required. We've got a SPECT in nuclear medicine for imaging as well. Our theater equipment is all digital. This allows us to share our images within the hospital as well as outside hospital, so that we can provide also teaching and support to the referring hospitals. We don't provide for all pediatric services. We have selected centers of excellence that we are going to provide, and therefore we require specialists that are trained in those fields. So basically we like to have people who live the Madiba ethos, people that really care, who are compassionate, who understand the importance of putting children and families at the center of care. So it goes beyond just being a doctor or a nurse, but also having the right ethos to actually work in this hospital. We also hope through this hospital to attract back South Africans who left the country to go and work overseas. We hope that they will come back and come and serve our people in this state-of-the-art hospital.
The hospital architectural design was started quite a long time before this team was appointed. In January 2014, the trust, the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital Trust, appointed a new team that was going to look at the internal environment of the space. So that covered, as myself as the environmental coordinator, I would oversee wayfinding and signage, the overall concept of the space, the interior design, the art installation, as well as any industrial design, and also just working with children and creating a space that relates to children.
When VETS donated the site to us, we basically set the architects out to start planning and design everything. And one thing that came very strongly in our research was that you need to make sure the environment feels least like a hospital as possible for children.
Well, I think it's very different from your typical hospitals where we have so many gardens within the actual space of the hospital. So from the architect's point of view, it was always an important aspect where all the gardens are accessible both to patients and to visitors during the day. The hospital is also on very many levels, and so what it has created is different levels of gardens that can all be seen from different levels from out of the actual ward rooms.
The design of the hospital itself would be, if you can imagine, a tree that's laid down on the ground. At the bottom you've got the roots, you've got the trunk of the tree, which basically becomes our main walkway of the hospital, and then you've got the branches, which becomes the different centers of excellence and the different wards that we have for the children. And that really, I think, gives a good sense of what inspired the design from the very, very beginning of it.
We developed a set of patterns that was then doubled up with the different colors. So the way we've done the wayfinding throughout the space is the space is vertically divided up into different colors. We start off with a orange square, which represents the mountains. Then we have the blue squares, which represent clouds. We have the green square, which are leaves and growth. And then we have the yellow squares right at the end, which is the sun. But not only did we do it through obvious signage, but the reason we use color and actual signs and logos or shapes is that those elements become recognizable even if you can't speak English or if you can't read or write, or even for children it's easy to know the difference between color necessarily between the actual writing on the signage.
This was a 1 billion rand project, and the 1 billion rand is building the hospital, training doctors and nurses to work in it, as well as the decor elements within the hospital, you know, the gardening, landscaping, etc., and the decor. So with the 1 billion rand, we had hoped that obviously it's important to have a green facility, a lot of daylight, big windows, wide open spaces for light to come into the different wards, different areas for the children, to experience outside even if they can't physically be outside. We also use low energy lighting in the entire building. We use water pumps as well for energy supply.
This hospital is for every child that needs the care that's required that's available in this hospital. It's free for those who cannot afford, and as Madiba said in the founding statements of this hospital is that no child should be refused care because they're not able to pay.
I felt that it's been such a fantastic privilege to be part of something that's so meaningful, and over and above that we got to do really great, fantastic design work, and it is a project that I'm incredibly proud of and that will always stay with me, and hopefully on a long-term basis I will hopefully stay involved with the project.
I think the important thing to always remember about the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital and how it came to be was that it's a big project, but it's a community project. This hospital came to be because of a wide range of support, from the corporate, who is a major donor, to the child who gives his piggy bank savings to contribute to this project. And I think we are here because of that support from all around the world to make Madiba's wish come true.